All right, so I'm not able to be with you guys today. So we have a recorded lesson, and I'm going to go over angle of elevation and depression. And we're going to use the same 4 steps for solving the trig problem that we did yesterday. So first, just a little bit of definition of what an angle of elevation is. It is an angle between the line of sight and the horizontal when an observer looks upward. So if Grandma sees a helicopter, see if I can draw a helicopter. Yep, not the best artist, but you get the idea. It's not a bad looking helicopter. So if Grandma sees a helicopter and she looks up at it, the angle makes a right triangle, and the angle looking up to the helicopter is what we call that angle of elevation. So today we're going to have problems that involve this angle and finding a missing side or finding the angle when we know some sides and distances. And so we're going to use those same steps. So let's review those steps from yesterday. Step 1, we're going to label opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. Step 2, you're going to pick between sine, cosine, tangent. Step 3, you're going to set up an equation, and then step 4, you're going to solve it. Solve equation. Okay, so let's use these steps on the next page to work out one of these problems. Alright, so a man flies a kite with a 100-foot string. The angle of elevation is 52 degrees. How high is the kite off the ground? Well, picking our angle here, 52, we're going to label. First step, label. Well, we got opposite. We got hypotenuse. Second step, pick sine, cosine, or tangent. Well, this one uses opposite and hypotenuse. Might need to write down our acronym if we haven't memorized it yet to speed us up. What's our TOA? Okay, so write this down on every page of your notes as you go through today if you haven't memorized it yet to help you quickly determine which trig function you need. Well, opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So the sine of 52 degrees equals x over 100. Opposite over hypotenuse. And then to solve, we're going to multiply both sides by 100. Which gives us 78.8 feet for x. Okay, so I'm working kind of fast, so if you need to pause the video at any time, feel free to do so to make sure you're copying down all the steps and rewatch it. So now we're going to calculate the angle of elevation and line of sight of a person whose eye is 1.7 meters above the ground. So on most of these, on your assignment today, some will have a picture, some won't. If you don't have a picture, you need to draw one. All right, so we got a person looking at a tree. So we need to draw our person. There we go. We need to draw a tree. Lovely. It's a nice oak. And then they're on level ground between the two. All right, now the person's eye is 1.7 up to the top of the tree. It's going to make a right triangle. Now the person's eye, this distance up to the eye is 1.7 meters. And it says the tree is 27.5 meters away on level ground. So that means this distance from here to there, 27.5. And it is 18.6 meters high. So this distance is 18.6. Well, we're trying to find the angle. So this is one, we're trying to find this angle x degrees of the angle of elevation. Notice, if you recall from yesterday, you're going to have to do inverse sine or inverse cosine or inverse tangent whenever we get to solving for x, the angle as the variable. Well, we're not quite ready because, well, we know this length of the triangle is 27.5. But what is this length right here? Well, we're going to have to subtract 18.6 minus 1.7. So we need to do 18.6 minus 1.7, which is how tall the person was, leaving us with 16.9. So this height is 16.9. All right, now we're ready to solve. So going through our steps, we've drawn our triangle. We're going to do opposite, hypotenuse, and this would be adjacent. So step 1, label opposite, hypotenuse, adjacent. Step 2, determine if you need sine, cosine, or tangent. Well, we need opposite and adjacent. Which one's that? Tangent. So moving kind of fast here, but just pause it if you need to. Tangent of x equals 16.9 over 27.5. So in order to solve, we're going to do inverse tangent. Whenever we don't know the x, the angle, in order to get x by itself, you got to do inverse tangent of the opposite side. So inverse tangent, and you would have to punch this in your calculator, but you would get 31.6 degrees. Make sure you're on degree mode. Would be this angle. All right. Next up, we have angle of depression, which is a similar angle, but it's between the line of sight and looking downward. The observer looks downward. So this is where we have somebody up here on top of a mountain, or maybe in a tree stand, looking down at a nice little deer. That's a skinny leg deer in it. Oh yeah, it's a spike. Okay, so angle, looking, if we kind of extended this down through here, made us a right triangle down to the deer, we'd call this angle the angle of depression. But it just so happens that this angle is congruent to this angle, which would be angle of elevation from deer up to the person. So these two angles are congruent, so if you know one of them, you can just plug in for the other one. So if we knew, well, this downward angle was 30 degrees, well, this upward elevation angle would also be 30 degrees. So that'll be useful as we go through this next few examples. All right. A downhill ski run is 100 meters long and is 800 meters above the ground. What is the angle of depression from a 5'4" skier to the top of the slope? So I'm going to make this a ski hill. And the run is 100 meters. So that means 1,000 meters. That means going this way is 1,000. Always making a right triangle on these problems. The height is 800 meters. And we are checking for this angle of depression. Well, that is the same angle as the angle of elevation, x. So I usually just find this angle x inside my right triangle, same angle. Now, it does say that the skier, let's draw us a little skier up here. Got a ski poles, a little scarf. It does say the skier is 5'4". Well, that is a minuscule amount when you're talking about 800 meters. It's not going to change the angle by even a tenth. So I'm actually at this point going to skip that as not relevant in this particular problem because it's so small compared to the units we're using. So now we just need to go through our steps, which is label opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, determine trig function, opposite and hypotenuse. It's going to be a sine. So I'm going to do sine of x equals 800 over 1,000. You'll recall from earlier, when we don't know the angle, we have to do inverse trig function, inverse sine of 800 over 1,000. And put that in your calculator, giving you 53.1 degrees. Got it. Next up, okay, we have a person standing in a window of a building, looking down at an object. Okay, so we got a building. It's kind of crooked. Person up here in the building. I'm not really sure what they're doing. They're in a window, but they're looking down at some object. Let's say our object is a flower. What a lovely flower. Okay, so we want to fill in our measurements. So the object is 58.5 meters away from the building on a line directly beneath the person. So this distance, 58.5. And the person's eyesight is 12.6 meters above ground. Compute the angle of depression. So we're wanting to find this angle, x, that is the same as this angle, x, over here. So if this confuses you, all the drawing, you could redraw it without the extra stuff that's not needed and make it look like a problem from yesterday. So 58.5, 12.6. Now it kind of looks like one we had yesterday, where we need to go in and label opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Well, that's opposite, and that would be adjacent. And then we need to pick which trig function. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So we're going to have tangent of x equals 12.6 over 58.5. To solve for one of these, we have to do inverse tangent. 12.6 over 58.5. Alright, and then put that in your calculator. Second tan button for inverse tangent. Hit second tangent. Make sure you put that in parentheses. You should get 12.2 degrees. Just remember, we're solving for an angle. All right. Okay, classify each angle as angle of elevation or depression. So this part's pretty easy. You don't have to get out your calculator for this. You're just looking, is the angle going from the person's eyes up, or is it an angle going down from the ground up, or from the horizontal in the sky down? Well, the going up angles would be angle 2 and angle 4. So 2 and 4 are up angles, or angles of elevation. And then we have angles 1 and angles 3, which are angles of depression. All right, this information should allow you to be able to work through the lesson, and hope to see you guys tomorrow.